So whether it's talking to a good friend or, I think one of the beautiful things that podcasts allow you to do is to reach out to that person that you really want to interview, that you really want to learn from, and invite them onto your show, because people want to gain greater audiences. They want to share their stories. And how flattering is it to have a podcast host reach out and say, hey, I would love to spend time with you and interview you and then share it with everyone that I know. That's the biggest compliment that there can be.
Welcome to The Change Effect, the podcast that helps you turn life transitions into powerful new beginnings. One story, one shift, one breakthrough at a time. I'm your host, Noelle Van, an author, leadership coach, and change strategist who spent years in corporate America helping innovators and leaders break through barriers to create success on their own terms. I now work with women to step into change to create a life they love. Whether you're putting yourself at the center of your own story, redefining success, or making a power pivot in your life, career, or business, you're in the right place. Each week, we dive into conversations with trailblazers, changemakers, and everyday women experiencing the ripple effects that come from overcoming the fear and doing it anyway, providing actionable steps, practical strategies, and a whole lot of fun along the way. So if you're ready to step up and become unstoppable, buckle up and let's get started.
Sometimes it takes knowing what isn't working to help us recognize what we're actually meant to step into. Change doesn't always arrive with a clear plan. Often it begins as a quiet knowing that the life we're living no longer fits the person we're becoming. Today's guest, Michelle Glogovac, knows this journey well. She spent nearly 20 years in the world of corporate aviation, building a career that was impressive in its own right, but no longer reflected who she was becoming. Standing at the intersection between what she had built and what she knew she wanted next, she made a courageous choice. Instead of staying on a path that no longer felt like hers, she walked away and began creating something new. What grew out of that choice wasn't just a new career, it was a calling. Today, Michelle is known as the Podcast Matchmaker, a trusted podcast publicist who helps authors, entrepreneurs, and changemakers amplify their voices and share their stories with intention and impact. She is the founder and CEO of the MLG Collective, a leading podcast PR agency that has helped clients reach millions of listeners worldwide, and the author of the book, How to Get on Podcasts. Through her work, she helps thought leaders hone their storytelling, grow their platforms, and elevate themselves as voices of influence. Michelle is also a prolific podcast host. Her podcasts, Beyond the Campaign, Burnt, and Read the Damn Book span politics with heart, womanhood without filters, and books discussed with heartwarming depth, all anchored by Michelle's gift for engaging her audience through the stories she reveals. Michelle is a mom of two, stepmom of two, and the founder of California Moms for Good, a mission-driven organization committed to empowering mothers to lead, advocate, and create lasting change in their communities. What stands out the most about Michelle isn't just her commitment to serving others, it's the life she's created by listening to her intuition and choosing a path rooted in freedom, alignment, and meaning. She's a powerful testament to what becomes possible when you trust yourself enough to step into a life you are meant to live. Michelle, it is wonderful to have you here with us. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Noel. I'm so excited to be here. And what an introduction.
Well, you got to fit it all in because, you do a lot. You have carved the path for so many questions today. There's so many different ways we can go with this because you cover, even in your podcasts alone, so many really interesting topics.
I like a lot of things, so.
I love that. What I'd love to do, Michelle, and usually we kind of go back just to give a little bit of your background, maybe just kind of tell us where you grew up and what has brought you to this place now, and then we can kind of dive into your first job and kind of how you got into where you are now in terms of podcasting.
I grew up in Paradise, California, which nobody knew of until it burned down in 2018 in the Camp Fire. Funny side story was I actually got a text message that day from this couple that I knew from my college days saying, is this the same phone number for Michelle? We remember you and you said you come from a small town named Paradise. Is this still your hometown? Is it you? And yes, so people remembered because I said, I come from the town nobody knows. Nobody remembers it, but now everybody knows it. It made the map.
Yes.
I grew up in a small town of 27,000. And when I turned 18, I was like, I'm out. I am totally out. I went to UC Santa Barbara. I majored in law. But while I was there, I had a part-time job at the airport working with corporate aviation. And when I graduated, they gave me a full-time job with benefits and a salary. I was like, I'm not moving home. So I stuck with it for 18 years. I sold jet fuel to corporate flight departments, to celebrities, athletes, Fortune 500 companies. And I moved around the country for it to Los Angeles, Houston, Chicago, and met my husband while I was doing this, got to move back to California, had 2 kids. And after the second one, I was laid off. And I thought, this is not what I want to do. I do not want to keep the wealthy saving money by flying in the air. I want to find something else to do. And it was in 2018 that I discovered that purple button on my iPhone, let you listen to podcasts. I had no idea. And a friend from my birthing class with my first child said, there's this life and business coach who is launching a show. Maybe you want to listen to it because you don't know what you want to do next. And I started listening and posting like, oh, apparently we all have a passion and a purpose, and I'm figuring out what mine is. I don't know what this means, but I'm listening to this show. And she reached out to me and said, do you want to pitch me to be on other shows? Because you obviously like what I'm saying. And I was, yeah, of course. I didn't know this was a thing. And in 2018, it wasn't really a thing to be pitching people. And I wanted to know everything there was in a podcast. What does it take to create one, to host one? And I ended up producing her show, producing other shows, launching my first show, but I fell in love with the pitching part. It very much is like sales and what I was doing, because you have to believe in what you are selling. You have to be able to take rejection, to send cold pitches. And I dropped the producing part, but I loved also the hosting. So I continued on with my own show and now have a full-blown agency with a team, and we pitch clients to be on podcasts.
Okay, well, first of all, that was such a great encapsulation of everything in such a short period of time. There's so many things that come to mind that I want to ask you about. But the first being, if we backtrack to when you left aviation, because I feel like what you just described is kind of, it's like the process that I try to explain all the time when people are sort of in that messy middle of like, I know I'm not going to be here anymore. I want something different. And then all of a sudden things just start happening, kind of like what you said, right? Like you're helping somebody out and then she decides that she wants you to help her with pitching. And then, so it's like you start to kind of move into this direction of flow once you start to kind of get curious and like, oh, this is interesting. And well, I could do this. And then you start to realize that the marketing background that you had fits into it and all of that. But when you think about leaving aviation, were you literally, because it sounds like you had a baby at the time too. So you were
I had
just
2. They're a year and 3 weeks apart. Yeah.
So you're like new mom out of your first job, looking for something new. When you took that first, you were helping somebody with a podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what made you decide to jump? You had said the purple button. Was that before you started listening to podcasts?
That was before.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that
you
was
had
before.
kind of an inkling of what that was about.
And I had tried other things between that little messy middle of, maybe I should do social media management because I know how to run my Instagram account. But then my head was in my phone and that wasn't fun. I thought maybe I should do event planning because I did a lot of networking events while I was in aviation, and that was nights and weekends. And I went, well, this is not making any sense. I want to do something for me that gives me the flexibility where I can be at home with my kids, but also contribute to our household finances. And in the beginning, my husband and I sat down. He's like, well, if you could make enough to pay the mortgage, that would be cool. And I was like, that's it. I'm very goal oriented. So
Love it.
I'm like, wait, that's what I have to do? Done. Give me a break. I got that.
Yeah.
I would make these small goals and then exceed them. And that's how I always was in aviation and sales. I'd give me my goal for the year because I want to blow it out of the water so my bonus can be bigger. That's just my nature. And, it was a lot of, there were scary times where you're going, okay, I'm working way too much. I'm not making enough for what I'm doing. And this client work is just no fun. This does not align with me. I don't want to do it. And my husband's extremely supportive. He would say, then don't do it.
Yeah.
This is your business. Don't work with that client if you don't want to. And that whole mindset of, if I let this go, something better will come along. And once I not only did that, but fully believed it and embraced it, it became true.
Yes.
So it's definitely helped me along the way to go, okay, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this and it's not going to make me happy. So I'm not going to do it. Something better will come along. And it always does.
Well, and it's interesting too, just how you described that process that you go through or that you went through is a very sort of like almost like a tactical, practical way of looking at things, right? It's like, well, I could do this, but then I work weekends, so that doesn't make sense. And then I could do because I feel like oftentimes we think of like finding what you're meant to do is like I have to find my purpose, and then people blow it out of proportion, and it becomes this big, big, big thing. Versus, no, let me just look at like tactically, what do I want to do with my days? Who do I want to work with? Do I want to like actually pick my clients? Yeah, I do. I feel like in my own experience, if that became the louder voice of like, no, I want freedom and I want to be able to manage my own time and I want to, and that sort of began to override that fear of not knowing exactly what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think you're describing. It's kind of like, then it just kind of takes shape because once you start to realize, no, I want this and I want this and I want this, then it starts to really evolve.
Once you think about what do I want, and 3 years ago, I think it was, I remember I was on a beach with a friend and I said, I want to work with more authors. I want to get paid to read books somehow. And I came home and I created the podcast book tour so that I could help authors get on podcasts to help market their books. And they pay me for it and I'm reading their books. So it was that, what do I want to do? Now with what's going on in our government, I'm thinking I want to educate people and myself on who is running for office. So I'm going to launch a podcast where I interview candidates. And what do you know? They all come on.
Yes.
So it's really just, what do I want? And then making it happen, not thinking it, overthinking it.
Well, and what I think, and you may have a different take on it, but I feel like podcasting, I mean, it's something that I started 3 years ago. Literally, when I think about what I do, which is my work, the podcast is the really fun part of it. Like, because the podcast is about my curiosity more than anything else. It's like, you know what? I really want to I want to interview women that are doing really cool things that are embracing change. And like you said, then you create it. And suddenly you're meeting all of these really interesting women that are like, it's almost simpler than you would ever imagine. Yet we think of it as a very big deal. And I mean, you have 3 podcasts. I would say, Michelle, you are a very curious person, right? In general, you want to meet people. You want to, the author, that is brilliant, by the way, because any of us who are book lovers, it's like, oh my gosh, how fun would that be to be meeting a bunch of authors and talking about their books?
And you get the free books mailed to you too. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the part of it that's like the simplicity of it. And yet it's kind of it's a great little secret that I think you're telling people about now. And especially the podcasting piece. And I just want to share this with you because this morning I had a friend of mine who just started her podcast. She and I talked probably 5 months ago, and she went into business with a business partner and they were going to start one. And we got on a call and she just announced it right on LinkedIn that she's got it started. And she was like, I can't believe it took me so long to start this. And I'm thinking, it's funny. It's that anticipation. And then once you dive in, it's like, oh my gosh, then it just takes on a life of its own. So how was your process? Like, how did you get involved? So you're with this person, you were doing the pitching, then you started to build the agency. Was it something that was conscious that you wanted to do, or did it kind of evolve?
No, it was. And it was at the time, it was the producing and the pitching and juggling all of that. And how do I make it happen? What's the pricing? And the pricing was stupid at the beginning. It was embarrassingly low, but I learned a lot. And I call myself a stalker. I stalk my clients. I stalk my guests. I'm like, I need to know everything there is, that curiosity part. Yes. So I would also stalk competitors. Who else was doing this? What were they doing? And how can I do more and do better? What can I add to my offering that's going to make it even better, to work with me than it is someone else? And that's just where it started taking off of, if I, not only create your media kit, but if I have this one-on-one almost therapy session with you, I'm going to create your speaking topics as well. And it took off all of the homework and the stress from clients. And then I started to gradually increase the pricing every month. I started at $100 a month, which is so sad. And then the woman that I was working with as a business coach, she goes, I bet you can make $250. I was like, oh, okay, that'd be great. Yeah, that's pathetic. Don't underestimate yourself.
Oh my gosh, but
Yes.
It's such a learning.
Yeah.
when you got started with helping podcasters, what is one of the biggest trip ups for people? And I mean, you probably work with people that have been doing it for a while, then people maybe that are brand new to it. But like, what comes up when I think of listeners out there that might be interested in starting a podcast, right? I always think like, I know that my biggest curiosity more than anything else was just just technically, how do I get all this set up? And which is really not that big of a deal at the end of the day. But what do you find is like a big question mark for people, or maybe something that stops them?
The tech part, but then also figuring out what can I talk about, not realizing how much time goes into it.
Yeah.
I've worked with hosts who, your episode goes live at 5 a.m. on Tuesday, and suddenly it's Monday night at 5 p.m. They're like, oh, here you go. Here's the episode to edit and to do the show notes for. And that was a big part of why I said I'm not producing shows anymore, because again, this is taking up the time. If you batch record and do things in advance,
Yes.
it's much easier. Get ahead.
Yes.
And I have an editor myself, and there will be weeks where I go, I'm so sorry, I'm really behind. So I just did a solo and it's 10 minutes, but it's like really clean. So just intro, outro, please, music.
Yes.
And that's no big deal. But if you are so far behind, like I don't like this last minute thing. And I think that was a great lesson for me as a contractor to go, okay, this is what I don't like. So I'm going to ensure that when I have contractors work for me, that I do not treat them that way, that I give them plenty of notice. I pay them what they're worth. I say thank you. I really don't want to impede on their time the way that my time was impeded on.
Do they come to you in the very beginning, or do you typically have clients that have had a podcast running, or is it a mixed bag?
It was a mixed bag. There was some who were just launching, some who had a show who needed show notes and graphics, and how do we grow this that way? And that would be the other thing that people don't realize, is that you don't just hit record and send it off into the podcast verse. You actually need to make it searchable and to have graphics and to promote it. And there's a lot of work that goes into hosting a show.
Yeah, I feel that pain. I know what you're talking about in terms of like getting it out there more. When you go into it and you look at it as your like pet project to a certain degree, you have to get out of that mindset, because you're not doing anybody any favors. I've come to realize the more that you're growing your audience, obviously the bigger the circle becomes, the bigger the impact, right? Which is what you're looking for. But when you think about different topics that people land on for podcasts, what do you see? Do you see like trends out there? Or do you see people, because you have ran the gamut. You've got political, right? So you're talking politics about moms, right? Which is a huge topic. I mean, you have like some robust subjects, and then book authors. Like, do you find that was, I know for you think that way. So you were probably like, okay, how do I want to dive into this now? But what do you think people are really gravitating toward more now? Because there's just so many out there. I think they want
escapes. Escapes are the big thing, whether we're talking about books, we're talking about podcasts, we're talking about television. Yeah. People want to escape. The world is heavy right now. And so what can we escape to or from? I think that's a big thing. But at the same time, we need to make sure we're not digging our heads into the sand either. And we pay attention to the important issues that are going on. And we do consume some news and whatnot. But I think that's the beauty of podcasts, is that there is a topic on literally everything, that you can listen to a comedian, Amy Poehler with her new show. You can listen to true crime podcasts. Those are huge.
Those everywhere. Yes.
So big.
Yes.
You can be informed and educated on how to start a business. You can literally, there's something for everybody.
Yes.
And so I think that's the great part about podcasts, is you can choose from for whatever mood you're in.
Well, and I'm wondering too, because it's a fairly new medium. I mean, it's been around for several years now, not totally new, but like
over 2 decades.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, I didn't realize that.
Podcasts have been around for a long, long time. They really gained popularity during COVID. So it was during COVID that we saw a spike of about 1 million new shows that came into play. But since then, we've seen it go down.
Yes.
It was a time where you had listeners decrease because nobody knew how to listen if they weren't in a car commuting or they weren't at the gym. Yeah. And then they slowly start to figure it out after couple of years of being locked down. Yes. And that's when you saw some more shows. Oh, now I have time to do this show and I'm going to do it. in my closet. And I did my show from my closet for many years. But now you're seeing things are coming back more to quote unquote normal, where you are still seeing shows that are new. Listeners are figuring out what they enjoy and how to listen, and new shows as well. So
Yes.
I think we're seeing more consistency, but they have been around for over 2 decades.
That's so crazy to me. I mean, because you think about like radio. When did radio then sort of fade out into TV? And then this feels like it's a new medium altogether. I'm curious about when somebody is starting, because I know my own experience, but I feel like when we think of women finding their voice, right? I mean, this is a way for I think women, not every woman's going to want to become a podcast host. We know that. But when we think about somebody that really feels a drive, a pull to create something like that, what would be advice that you would give them? Because knowing from your experience, right? Like even to dip their toe in the water or to get started or to think about a topic, like what would be a directional piece of advice?
I would say first write it down. What is it that you really want to talk about? And then hit record. Just start hitting record.
Ooh, that's bold. I love
For
that.
a long time, I scripted everything. I wrote down word for word what I was going to say. I read it. Somehow my editor was like, I didn't know you read it. It sounded so natural. Now I don't script anything. Absolutely nothing. There is nothing written down. I hit record and we just go.
Yes.
And I think that is what makes it engaging, relational. It's what people want to hear. I think that interviews allow us to be that fly on the wall that we always wish we could be, that we get to eavesdrop on conversations, and it's actually okay and acceptable to eavesdrop in on these conversations. And that's what makes it fun. So whether it's talking to a good friend or, I think one of the beautiful things that podcasts allow you to do is to reach out to that person that you really want to interview, that you really want to learn from, and invite them onto your show, because people want to gain greater audiences.
Yes.
They want to share their stories. And how flattering is it to have a podcast host reach out and say, hey, I would love to spend time with you and interview you and then share it with everyone that I know. That's the biggest compliment that there can be.
And it's funny because I think, and I'm very much like you, did a lot of I had questions, everything mapped out, and then I would never use them. But I think there is an element there of like, there's a confidence that gets built as you go. And this is what I had said to my friend today. I said, just get started. Once you get started and once you get involved in it, then it takes on a life of its own. It will become something that you look forward to. It'll become something that's not feeling rote. It's an expansive experience because you're pretty much speaking from the heart. You're not scripted out most of the time, but a lot of people I'm sure would want to start with that. But like, is there a certain point in time that you gain that confidence? And I'm wondering, I mean, like you just said, great example, getting someone on that you've always wanted to talk to. We all know what that feels like when you get the guests that you're like, oh, that was like on my bucket list and I can't believe it. And now we're talking, and then you finish it and you're like, wow, that went really well. I mean, there's so many incremental wins for both sides in podcasts. Are you finding that there's more and more people that are starting them now? You said there was a little bit of a dip.
There was a dip, and I find it encouraging that there are more people who are saying, I want to start a podcast. I just launched one. I'm seeing a lot on threads of, I just launched it. It's the beginning of the year. Beginning of the year, we're going to see a lot of, New Year's resolutions and launching of shows and that kind of a thing. So I hope that everyone understands that you have to be consistent with it and keep going. You have to show up, whether it's weekly, biweekly, monthly. Just make a schedule that you can stick to so your audience knows when you're going to show up. You're setting that expectation for them. And I think that's so important, to simply be consistent. You can skip a week. I mean, I've got over 400 episodes or so now. I stopped counting so I had one show and then I split that off into 3. So I stopped at episode 340 and then started recounting with the other episodes. So now I have to add them all up. So it's well over 400 episodes.
Yeah.
And there have been times where I'm like, you know what? I just got to take a break.
Right.
I need 1 week off, or I need 2 weeks off. And you don't. And it's funny because I'll think to myself, nobody's noticed. And then I'll have a friend go, is everything okay? You didn't have an episode this week. And I went, oh, yeah, everything's fine. Didn't know anybody was listening.
It's crazy though, because when you think, I mean, and I've done that, but I'll do a pause for a month, knowing that I'm going to take that time. And then I'll be like, hey, I'm not going to be here. I'll be gone from this point to this point. Not, of course, anticipating anybody's going to notice that, but of course, wanting to make sure that then somebody's not like, wait a minute, it's been a whole month. But that to me is then I can tee up new guests. But everybody does it differently. But like you said, as long as you're keeping that consistency. I remember when I first started, somebody said to me something like, whatever, 50% of podcasts don't make it past the 10th episode or something like that, where it was like,
I think it's like 3 episodes. It's even smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking, well, I could do that. And then I was like, well, wait, I mean, this is not hard. I mean, it seriously is a little bit of a psychological thing too, until you start feeling like, no, it's just what I do every week. I can imagine, Michelle, you've been doing this for how many years?
Since 2019.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So this is my 7th year. Yeah. It is kind of funny when I think, I'm like, oh, I just started this yesterday. It feels like, no, yes. 7 years later.
I know.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Michelle, let's talk a little bit about the 3 podcasts you have, because I love them. And I just want to hear a little bit more. So first of all, Beyond the Campaign, very timely. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I wanted to get to know my politicians. I wanted to get to know what's going on in our country right now. I wanted to know who is running for office. And I felt that there's a part of us as voters that we don't think that our politicians are accessible. I don't. I don't think that I can just be like, hey, how you doing? This is me. I live here. I'm your constituent. And yet they should be accessible like that. And I'm very lucky my congressman is accessible like that. I know my council member, I know all of these local people, but how many people know who your senators are? And, why is it important to know senators or congress people that don't represent you? Well, because they do ultimately represent you. And I wanted to also get to know who they are as people. I know where they stand on the issues. It's on their websites, but I wanted to know, why did they run? Why is this their job of choice? What is their family like? Does their family support what they're doing? And what does that look like? And so I launched a show, Beyond the Campaign, to find that out, to talk to our politicians, to talk to candidates. And it's been amazing getting to know all of these people. And really, I'm getting an education along with everybody else. I've gotten to interview Senator Cory Booker twice, Representative Swalwell, who is, in California as well. I've had my own Congressman, Jimmy Panetta, on. And then I also had Mikey Sherrill on, who is now governor of New Jersey. Cool. She was governor-elect at the time. Not even governor-elect. It was before, as she was running. So to have these people on as candidates, and it's been funny as a mom for, my kids to go, oh, that woman got elected. Didn't you have her on the show, Mom? We saw that on Spotify. Yes. So we know her.
Yes.
We know, oh, look, there's Cory Booker. We know him. Yes. So now my
Cory
kids
Booker.
are like, we know all of them.
But what a nice way to get your kids involved in that too. I mean, because as we were talking before the show, politics right now, not everybody's as involved. And everybody has their reasons to be involved to whatever degree or not, but you're keeping yourself informed while you're doing this too. It's kind of a dual
And I think
process.
That's the most important. Yes. Not everybody wants to get out there and talk about it or be on social media and post about it. But I do think it's important that we are informed,
Yes.
that we take voting seriously, that we know who and what we are voting for. And this is a way to do that. And I want my kids to grow up being informed about
Yes.
what it means to vote and the importance of voting and showing up, and that politicians are accessible and should be accessible, and they have every right to call them, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. And that's the other thing that I really try to enforce in my kids and my show, is that when it comes to our politicians, they have the worst customer service job on the planet. They
Yes.
get contacted when we're mad. And I have tried my very best to ensure that I contact all of my representatives when I'm happy to. And I let them know, hey, really appreciated that you voted this way. Really appreciated that you did this with the budget. So I treat them like my kids. I will praise you and I will scold you. I will do both. It will be balanced. But, you work for me. And so I want you to know, great when you did this. not a fan of this part. So
Right.
I think it's important that we do that and we let them know the good and the bad.
I love it. Okay. So then as we shift a little to motherhood, tell me about that podcast.
Burnt.
Burnt. I love it. I mean, not love it because it's not a great topic. I'm saying I love it in terms of that it's getting to the heart of things.
I co-host it with Lauren Lehman Carter. And the funny part is that Lauren and I have never met in person.
Seriously?
She is in Chicago. Seriously. We should be
Love it.
meeting next month, actually in DC.
Oh,
But
fun.
we have never met in person. And politics brought us together.
Politics brought you together. Okay.
It did. Yeah. Activism, politics. We met online through some other people. And then it was like, well, we're going to FaceTime and we connect. And what else can we do? And burnt came from being burnt out, wanting to burn things down, and what burns us up. So that is what we talk about every week. We record on Monday and it releases on Wednesday. So that way we can be current. I like to compare it a bit to the I've Had It podcast, but on a friendlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like you can be kind to your politicians without belittling them.
Yes, yes.
You can chew them out without belittling them.
Right.
So it's got that kind of a twist to it. But neither of us have been on a reality TV show.
Okay. Good. Good to know. Not to say that you may not in the future. I'm just kidding.
You never know, but yes.
Okay. And then the podcast about books.
Read the damn book.
Read the damn book. I can't believe that did not come right off my tongue. So tell me about that. That's my fave, actually.
I love books, period.
Yeah.
And I feel like authors, they are celebrities, but we don't recognize them the way we would TV actors or movie actors because we don't really see them. We don't hear from them. We recognize a book cover though. And I wanted to get to know the authors behind the books that make us feel, make us cry, move us. And I wanted to get to know what parts of the author are actually in the book. What is true in the fiction? Because there's always parts that are true.
Yes.
And these are the questions that I ask. And I make sure that I read the damn book before every interview. I'm so sick and tired. I get on a soapbox of I don't want to hear about people who recommend books or have book lists or even book podcasts who have not read the book.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot get behind something if I have not tried it, read it, tested it. And when I do, you will know about it. You will know I will sing praises from the rooftop of, oh my gosh, I loved this book. I loved this product. I love Costco. I will tell people, you will know I have tried it and I loved it. And so that is why I feel it's so important to actually read every word of the book for every author that I interview. So
That's awesome.
I say, read the damn book.
Yes. What's great about that is I think you're contributing to the cause because people, once they know about the author, are sometimes more compelled to then go read the book. You know what I mean? Like you find like, wow, that's super interesting. That person lived such an incredible life. And then they wrote this book. That's what draws me. And sometimes I'm not a big fiction reader, which is so funny because when you just said that, it was like in my mind, I have not read fiction probably in 10 years, something like that. I mean, all nonfiction. And it's weird. It's kind of like, I can't actually believe I'm saying this to you, but I honestly have almost like a block for fiction these days. And I don't know why. That's something maybe I could think deeper into, but at a later time. But that would be hard for me to sit down and just like read a fiction book. And then maybe it is a little bit of an escapism thing that I love learning about new topics that are like concrete and in front of me. I used to read fiction all the time when I was little, but not as much anymore. Anyways, it's very admirable that you're able to sit down and read through a book before you start the podcast because that's a lot of reading.
It's a lot of reading. I did the most reading I think I've ever done last year. I read 101 books.
Oh my God.
And I don't know how, but I'm reading while I'm cooking dinner. I'm reading before bed. If there's sports on TV, I'm reading. I will read in the pickup line. I'm constantly reading, but I love it.
Are you all fiction?
No. And a lot of people say I read too much nonfiction, which I think is funny.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's a whole combination of memoirs and nonfiction and recently thrillers. And I'm not a thrill-seeking person. I realized we went to Disneyland last year and I was like, I do not need roller coasters in my life. No, thank you.
No.
I am not someone who's like, give me a thriller. I want to know who done it. And yet lately I've had a lot of thrillers, which cracks me up.
But it's a good discipline. I mean, not to make reading be a discipline because then that makes it no fun. But I'm saying it in like, it's a good like habit routine practice to see different types of, because I always think reading is such an enricher. Like it not only keeps us informed, but it just keeps our brains moving and keeps us being creative and all that stuff. Okay, so this is my next question for you, because knowing that you've got these three, which who says you're not going to have a fourth by the next time I talk to you?
You never know. I might have a solo one.
You might. But now what's next for you? I mean, this is the beginning of the year. Are you thinking about the year ahead is there any kind of special projects you're going to be working on or anything new that you're going to be dipping into?
It's a good question. I've decided not to do resolutions. I'm like, whatever. I'm over that. I've been trying to figure out what is next. What do I want to do next? With the midterms coming up in November, I do want to focus a lot on making sure that I can single-handedly educate as many people and get as many people out to vote as possible. I think that's amazing. Important. Doesn't matter which way you vote. You need to get out and vote and inform yourself. So doing whatever I can for that. I recently launched an in-person book club here in town, and December, we had our first meeting and I chose 2 books and 12 women came over and we had the best time. By the time everyone left, they were texting me, so when's the next one? So we're meeting every other month. I choose 2 books in person.
Great. Yep.
It's a blast. And it's
cool.
It's a great, just another escape sort of, but at the same time, I'm using it for the podcast. So I will try to interview at least one of the 2 authors that is part of our book club. And I love also that it's a way to give back to authors, because now I have 12 women who are buying your book.
I love it. And the thing think about the social aspect of that too. I feel like that's one other thing that we have to keep stepping back into, because we've been so used to being online for everything. And then the fact that this is an in-person, you've now got 12 women that are going to know each other at a deeper level, like all of that.
And it's so funny because most of them did not know each other. And I didn't even think of this when I just started inviting them. There were a lot of moms from school, PTA, activism moms, not even moms. They're just a whole group of women that when they sat down, I didn't realize that they didn't know each other. And I went, oh, you haven't seen each other at school? You haven't seen each other at this event? Oh, okay, here, now we all know each other.
Yes.
And it was great because they walked away going, I didn't know that one was so funny. Oh, this was so great. Now we know new people.
I have a personal affinity. When you just said that, I was like, in your South, I'm of course north. I'm way north of you. But I was like, if I was local, I would do that, because truly it's the kind of thing that not only is it just shared interest, but I know at my age, I crave that. I crave community. I love connection. Like that's the kind of thing that brings you back into your environment and gets you out of your head and all of those things. And I don't think a lot of women, we don't have those opportunities like we did 20 years ago or whatever, where you just meet people by happenstance or whatever. So what a great way to bring people together and then to have books to talk about. I would be loving that most of all, that conversation.
I chose a spicy book and they were both Christmas holiday themed, and one had spice that I did not expect. I had not read them and I went, oh, these women are going to wonder about me. And the best part was figuring out which women were like, that was fine. I had no problem with it. And I'm like, I'm going to look at you and your husband in a new way. This is great.
I love that. Oh my God, Michelle, you are doing so many fun things. And I love the podcast, the fact that you are helping other podcasters. And like I've told you, you and I are going to talk, because I could use several tips from you for sure in terms of building and creating more this year with the podcast. Because it's so true. Once you jump in, and this is just once again, my messaging out there to listeners, if there's anybody out there that's interested in starting a podcast, you just got to jump in the water. It's a lot of fun. And it's not as scary as you think it is. And we need more voices out there, whether it's for politics, whether it's speaking for moms, whether it's authors, whatever, change, which is, what we're all about. I just think there's not enough of us out there kind of speaking our truth. So, and listening and meeting people that are incredibly interesting and amazing. Anyways, Michelle, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. This was a blast.
This was fun. And I'm excited for the new year for you. I feel like 2026. It's going to be a good one for all of us.
Thank you. I hope so.
It will. It will. I do. I believe it. Thank you again. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. That's it for now. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to The Change Effect. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode, so more women like you can find us and take their next step toward creating a life they love.